In previous session, we discussed what is overloading, what is method overloading, what is constructor overloading. So what is overloading means if same method name is used for different purpose, then we can say it is method overloading. If same constructor is used for different purpose, then we can say that constructor overloading. If you see our example, so if you see this is the example. So actually in Python directly constructor overloading, method overloading, it won't support directly. For example, if you declare the same constructor with multiple parameters, then it will take only last constructor because it will take only last syntax. Then in that case, how we implemented is constructor with default parameters or variable length parameters, which will support this scenario. Similarly, same method overloading also. If I wanted to perform method overloading is nothing but same method. For example, one method to perform addition of two numbers, three numbers, four numbers, or n numbers. So if I wanted to support that kind of method overloading, definitely I need to use either variable length parameters or default parameters. So otherwise, Python directly doesn't support this method overloading or constructor overloading. So we need to use variable length or default parameters to support method overloading and constructor overloading. And next, operator overloading, I will give some simple example. Operator overloading means same operator used for different purpose. Same operator used for a different purpose. Already we discussed some general example like I can use plus for addition of two numbers. If I use between integers, it will be addition of two integers. It will act as a addition operator. If I use between the strings, string 1 plus string 2, then it will become a concatenation operator. Concatenation operator. So if I use the same operator for different purpose, then we can say it is a operator overloading. So how I can perform this operator overloading in class and object oriented programming? So let us take some simple example here. Let us take simple example. So let us see this program. So let us see this program. Here what I am doing here is just I am creating two objects. I have declared one class called as operator overloading and initializing one variable called as number of pages. And what I'm creating is one object is B1 where I'm passing 100 pages and B2 I'm passing 200 pages. Actually what I'm expecting just I'm passing two integers 100 plus 100. So what it has to do means I'm thinking to get 200 as the output. But here if you see B1 is an object, B2 is also object. If it is an integer, this is direct operation. Means I can do 100 plus 200, 100 plus 100. The output will be very simple, 200. But B1 and B2 are the objects. If I run directly this, so what I will get is I will get an error by saying plus operator is not supported between two objects. You can see unsupported operator between these two objects. Because B1 is an object, B2 is an object, even I am performing simple addition operation, it will not support plus operation between two objects. Then how to perform this operator overloading is in Python we are having some simple functions called as underscore underscore add underscore underscore. So these are some magical functions. If you remember while discussing with variables rules, I explained if it is starting with a double underscore, then and ending with double underscore, those are called as magical functions. In Python, we are having some magical functions like underscore underscore add underscore underscore. underscore underscore sub underscore underscore. Like this, we are having a lot of magical functions. If I wanted to perform multiplication, multiplication, underscore. So same program, what I need to do is I need to add one more function called as add underscore, and then it will able to perform the addition of two objects or multiplication of two objects or subtraction of two objects or division operation and so on, power operation and so on. So same example, what I need to do is I need to add one more logical magical function here. So what I did is I have added this magical function for addition. So this is for addition operation. So now if I try to add these two objects, what it will do means it will create object 1 and object 2. If I try to add b1 plus b2, what it will do means it will perform this magical operation. And now you are able to get 100 plus 200, that is 300. So in order to implement this operator overloading between objects, you need to use this magical functions. Directly, if I try to add two objects, then it will gives you error. Instead of getting error, if you need the output, then you need to use this magical functions. So this is about overloading concept. What is overloading means same functionality or same function which is used for different purpose. Method overloading, constructor overloading, very simple. Python doesn't directly support these concepts. What we need to do is we need to use either default parameters or variable length parameters in order to support this method overloading and constructor overloading. And when it comes to operator overloading, so directly two objects cannot be added or multiplied or subtracted. So then we need to apply some magical functions, then it will perform the operation. Even if you want to see a subtraction operation also, directly if I try to do subtraction of these two objects, so then it will gives you error. So let us say to 300, 200. I'm expecting 100 as output, which is not supported operator overloading here. So then, so what I can do, I can add one magical function. So that is sub underscore, and here you can perform subtraction between two objects. So unsupported operator. So def sub underscore self other self dot pages. Yeah, so here b1 minus b2. So just see here 100 minus 200 minus 100. So if you wanted to perform operator overloading between two objects, definitely need to use this magical functions. The next concept is overriding. So if you remember previous example, if you have the same function between parent class and child class, then what it will do, so that we are going to execute now. Then I will explain what is method overriding and constructor overriding. Just take some simple example. Class. So let us say college is class, and so let us define one simple method, college details method, and self. So just what I'm writing is print NIT Silchar, print something I'm writing about college. And same what I can do, I will create one child class. So let us say student. So which is inheriting from college. So I will write same function college details. So self So print something. So there are, let us say, 1,000 students in NIT Silchar and so on. So if I create an object for student class, what it will happen? So what I declared here is same function college details in both parent class and child class. So same function between child class and parent class. Then what it will happen? Here what it will do means it will override the parent logic with child logic. So what is method overriding means if the same method it is there in the parent class and child class, it will override the parent logic. It will consider only child logic. So see here, let us say something. There are many branches like CSC and so on. So just I am writing something in student class and college. So execute this. And if I create an object for student, and if I try to call the method, which method it will call? Actually, as per the inheritance concept, what I need to get? So if you inherit this college class, it should get this college details also. If I call this college details, which method it will execute? What it will do means it will override. So method overriding is nothing but, so it will override parent logic, parent logic with child logic. So if you have the same function in the parent and child, what it will do means it will override the parent logic with child logic. If I execute this, then I will get this output, not this output. So see here. So you can see there are 1,000 students. There are many branches like CSE, CEEE, and so on. Means what is the meaning of method overriding? Means if you have the same method in both child class and parent class, it will override the parent logic with the child logic. And now my scenario is, so method overriding, it is clear because it is overriding the parent logic and I'm getting only child logic. In case if I want, so my requirement is in addition to the child logic, I need the parent logic also. Even if I have the same method, I want both methods output. So next scenario is even if I have same method, I'm expecting both logic from parent and child, parent and child logic. So I'm expecting both parent and child logic. So same program. So if you need the parent logic also, then what you need to do is here there is one method called as super method. Super method. By using super method, if you call the same method, what it will do means it will point to the parent logic. And what it will get? It will get the parent logic also. Even if you give the same method, this super method, what it will do means it will point to the parent logic and it will retrieve the parent method logic here. Very simple. If you have the same method in the parent and child, how to call the parent logic is by using super method. Now, if I create an object for student, I will get the output of both parent and children. So if I create an object for children class, so what is the output I will get? I will get both outputs, that is parent logic and child logic. Without using super keyword, it will override the parent logic. If you need the parent logic also, then you need to use super method. If you need only parent logic, then you can remove this parent logic or just declare a method with super keyword with if you call this parent logic, then it will call this parent logic. So So if you need both parent logic and child logic, you can use this super method inside your parent method logic, then it will retrieve the parent logic also. So this is about method overriding. And similar case is applicable for constructor overriding. So constructor overriding. So constructor is nothing but underscore underscore init underscore underscore. Let us say college name and the college location, self dot name, college name equal to college name, self dot college location equal to college location. So what it is, there is, I am declaring the same constructor because constructor name, even if it is a parent class or child logic, so constructor name is always underscore underscore init underscore underscore. So let us say student name and student roll number or something I'm declaring. So self dot student name equal to student name, self dot student roll number equal to student roll number, student roll number equal to student roll number. Now I'm going to declare one more method, def display details method. So print college name is self dot college name and print college location. College location is self dot college location and print student name is student name is self dot student name and the student roll number, whatever the variables you are having, you are displaying all those details. If you see, I'm having the parent class college, and here I'm having one constructor called as underscore underscore init underscore underscore, which is having college name is initialized and college location is initialized. And in the student class, I'm inheriting college class. And here in the student class, I'm initializing name only, means student name and student roll number. What it will do means if I create an object for student class, s equal to student, and here actually what I told, if you use constructor, whatever the parameters required, we need to initialize those parameters, right? So student name is something Jahangir and roll number is something 301. If I try to call this start display details, start display details, so try to execute it. So display details method, string object has no attribute self. Start display, string object has no attribute self. Okay, display details. So what it will happen is here I need college name and college location also, right? How I can initialize those variables is, how I can initialize those variables here is, I need to use super keyword, super method dot underscore underscore init underscore underscore, and whatever the variables you wanted to initialize, college name and college location. From the child itself, I'm able to initialize those variables. I'm able to initialize those variables. So how to initialize this? How to invoke the parent class constructor is you need to use super method dot underscore underscore init underscore underscore. You can pass the required parameters to be initialized for the parent class by using this super method. So you can use super method to initialize the required parameters. So let us see this. And so college name and missing two required positional arguments. So college name, college location. Okay. So because we are passing four parameters to the child class, right? College name is NIT Silchar and college location is Assam. So from the child class itself, we are initializing the parent class also. Self object don't have the self. Okay. 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 So here instead of comma, what we did is, yeah. So now you can see. So from the child class itself, I'm invoking the parent class constructor by using this super method. If you don't use super method, what it will do means it will override this logic. Just it will take the only child logic. If you want to initialize the parent parameters also, then you need to use super method. So what is constructor overriding means if the parent class and child class having the same constructor, then it will override the logic of parent constructor. It will take only child constructor. If you wanted to initialize the parent class constructor values also, then you need to use super method. If you don't use super method, just what it will do means it will override the logic of parent class. Just it will initialize the only child class parameters. If you need parent class constructor also, then you need to use super method. So this will complete polymorphism. So polymorphism, we are having overloading and overriding. In polymorphism, we are having overloading and overriding. So what is overloading means same method name or same constructor name or same operator used for a different purpose, then we are going to call it as overloading. And what is overriding means same function in the parent class and child class, then it will override the logic of parent class. In order to avoid overriding, then you need to use super method. So that is about polymorphism. And next concept is abstraction. Abstract method or abstract classes and so on. Abstract methods. We'll discuss briefly about abstract methods, abstract class, and or simply I can say interfaces. So what is abstract method? Why I require abstract method? One simple use case we are going to discuss now. So what is abstract method or what is abstract class? Why we require these abstract methods and abstract classes in our programming? Let us say we are working for some banking application. So let us say XYZ company. So XYZ company that is working for some banking application. So they wanted to start banking application, but they don't have the any client, just they have the some generic requirements like they don't have initially they don't have any clients like ICICI or HDFC or the SBI bank, means they don't have any clients. They started gathering the requirements. What is the general functionality of a bank? So usually a bank will have withdraw function, withdraw function, or deposit function, or balance inquiry function, and so on. Means they collected the requirements These are the minimum required functions in order to develop a bank. Initially, they don't have any logic, means they don't know how much. If I withdraw 10,000 or 1 lakh or 10 lakhs from the bank, how much they are going to charge, because from bank to bank, the logic will differ. ICICI Bank may charge 1,000 rupees if you withdraw 10 lakhs, or HDFC Bank may charge some 1,500 if you withdraw 10 lakhs. Means the logic may be different, but these are the general functions are required to develop any bank. Then what the developer will do means they will create one class where with abstract functions. With abstract functions. What is abstract function means? Just I'm going to declare the signature of that method, means withdraw method or deposit method. Usually input will be amount, and I don't know what is the logic inside this method, but just I know withdraw method will be definitely it will be there in the bank class. So if you remember when I'm discussing looping concepts, I explained one concept called as pass keyword. If I wanted to declare an empty method in Python directly, it won't support. So in other programming languages, it is okay to declare an empty function. Like if I use Java or .NET, so directly I can declare def withdraw function as an empty function, and wherever I required, I can get I'm going to implement that function. But in Python, it won't support directly an empty function. Then how to declare an empty function is by using pass keyword. By using pass keyword. Nothing but what I'm saying, my function is just pass it for some time. I will come back and again I'm going to implement this function. So initially, what is abstract method means? A method without implementation is called as abstract method. So why I require abstract methods means if we don't know the entire logic, just I'm going to declare an empty functions initially. That functions we are going to call it as abstract methods. So what are abstract methods means? Declaring an empty methods. Abstract methods. Declaring empty methods without implementing. Empty methods is nothing but without implementation. A method without implementation. A method without implementation. Implementation is called as abstract method. Abstract method. A method without implementation is called as abstract method. And you can understand what is the importance of abstract method means. If I don't know the in particular scenario, if you don't know the logic and if you wanted to come back and implement later, then we can declare that method as a abstract method. And for example, I declared means I have implemented some abstract methods in my bank class, and now I got my clients, like I got ICICI client. So ICICI is one of my client, and I got HDFC as another client, and so on. Now, if they give the requirement to implement withdraw function, means for withdraw they wanted to charge some 100 or 1,000, means they will give their own set of rules. Now I can inherit my bank class and I can write my required logic here. So withdraw function, and you can implement your logic, your client logic here. So if you know the client, if they give the set of rules, what needs to be performed in that function, you are going to implement that logic. So this concept we are going to call it as abstraction. So initially, if you don't know the logic, just declare an empty methods. Whenever if you get the logic, you are going to implement that logic. So for HDFC Bank, there may be different withdrawal logic. And for ICICI Bank, there may be different withdrawal logic. For SBI Bank, there may be different withdrawal logic. Just I can inherit bank class and I'm going to implement my methods. Whatever the required way you wanted to implement, you are going to implement that required methods. This is about abstraction. I'm having some simple example. So like this bank example only, I'm having something. In order to implement this, you need to import one package. I will tell you what is that package. So see here. So I will explain this code. So see here, in order to implement this abstract method, you need to import this package. So ABC is the package which is used to implement abstract methods. So if you wanted to make that method as an abstract method, so then you need to decorate it with at abstract method. This is mandatory keyword. So this keyword is available from this ABC package. So this is the mandatory decorator. So to on top of the method, you need to decorate it with that abstract method to make that method as a abstract method. Here, if you see withdraw method, I'm implementing it as a abstract method. And deposit method, I'm implementing it as a abstract method. But if you see the get details, because just I wanted to display the details of the bank, right? Just bank name, bank location. If I pass the bank name and bank location, I'm able to display all those details by using this get details function. So this kind of methods, whatever we discussed till date, all those methods are the non-abstract methods because you are writing some logic within that methods. So non-abstract methods means if there is an implementation of that method, then we can call it as a non-abstract method. If there is no implementation, these are the abstract methods. So this is my class bank, which is having two abstract methods, one non-abstract method. And if I know my client, if I know the logic of my client, so let us say for withdraw, there is some 1% charge is doing by HDFC Bank. And for deposit, this will be the deposit logic of my HDFC Bank. And ICICI Bank, let us say they are charging 2% on withdraw. Means I can implement my logic in the required function. So what is this advantage of this bank is if I wanted to start my application, I don't know my client, I can declare all the requirements with means required functions as abstract methods if I don't know the logic. And then I'm going to implement that logic whenever if I get a particular client and their logic. So you can see this bank method. I declared these two methods as abstract methods, this method as non-abstract method. And whatever the implementation, if you know that implementation will not differ from the client to client, then you can make that methods as a non-abstract methods. And in future, if you get all the details of that method, you are going to implement those methods. And this non-abstract methods, no need to implement it again because you know you've already implemented this method, right? If you implement it again, that will be like method overriding. Means it will override this logic. If you think that logic is a constant, then no need to implement it again. That's why if you see, I have implemented withdraw and deposit in these two clients. If you again add that non-abstract method, so display details method, what it will do means it will override that method and it will take only child logic. Again, if you want parent logic, what you need to do, you have to use super method. And if you see, just I'm creating one object for HDFC Bank and calling withdraw function and deposit function. Even you can directly call details method because this is inheritance, right? And no need to again write explicitly the details method. If you inherit this bank class, directly this method also will comes here. Nothing but I'm able to use if I create an object for HDFC Bank, I'm able to use this get details method also. Similarly, I'm creating an object for ICICI Bank, and withdraw function I'm calling deposit, and also I'm calling details function. You can see withdraw HDFC withdraw logic, and it is performing the amount and what is the amount to be paid. All those things it is able to perform the required logic. So this is about abstract method. So there is one more thing called as interface class. Means in Java also we are having that concept called as interface. Interface. Actually in Java, if you have some idea, directly there is one keyword called as interface, which is used to interface class. So like normal class, we are going to declare with class. And if it is an interface, we are having one keyword called as interface keyword to recognize that as an interface class. What is an interface means? If you see my previous example, in this example, this is not an interface. How I am saying this is not an interface is, so I will tell you. So why I am saying this is not an interface. If you see this example, bank example, there are two abstract methods, one non-abstract method. So this is not a interface. So what is exactly interface is? All the methods are abstract methods. Interface is nothing but all methods are abstract methods in a class. All methods in a class are abstract. Means if you don't know any logic of any method, and then you need to make that as a interface class, but no need to explicitly declare like other programming languages I need to use interface keyword, right? But here just to declare all methods as abstract methods, by default Python will treat that as a interface class. So same example, if I don't know the logic of it is also. So if I don't know the logic of get details, so what you need to do here is you need to declare that as a abstract methods. So you need to declare that as a abstract method. And so whenever if you know the logic, for example, maybe if you think even details method will change from bank to bank, let us say display details method in ICICI Bank is self. Let us say they are taking first name, last name, and they wanted to print the entire full name, print full name of customer. So first name plus last name. So let us take ICICI Bank. They are having their own definition for data details, a display function. So get details, right? Not display. So get details method. Get details method. Let us say they are taking customer name and customer age as input. The client itself, we can get to know whether it is having different logic or same logic. Means if it is constant logic throughout all your clients, then you can use, means you can implement. But in case if you think this get details also different for different clients, then you need to implement it as a abstract methods. Then that complete class we are going to call it as a interface class. Name is customer name, print age is age. So now get details. For example, HFC Bank, it is expecting first name and last name. Let us say customer details. Ishwar. Kim, and here customer name and age is something. So if you think there will be different logic for even get details, then we can implement that as a abstract method. So you can see a different logic. Even if you think different logic for get details, then you can declare that as abstract method in the main class. Then this kind of class we are going to call it as a interface. What is an interface means? Entire class which contains only abstract methods. If the class contains even one method as a non-abstract method, then we cannot say that is a interface. So if you think, I means while taking the requirements itself, in your class, if you think all the methods are abstract methods, that kind of class we are going to call it as a interface class. And so here abstract class, so we can also call this class as abstract class. What is abstract class means? It may contains, so it may contains both abstract methods and non-abstract methods. Abstract methods and non-abstract methods. So if your class contains both abstract methods and non-abstract methods, that kind of class you're going to call it as abstract class. If your class contains only abstract methods, then we're going to call it as a interface. So when we require interface means if we don't know what is the client, which methods they want as a constant methods, which they wanted to implement dynamically. If you don't have any idea, just declare the signature of those methods means an empty methods initially in complete abstract methods in your class, then we can call that class as a interface class. And whenever you have the client or required clients here, you can implement those all the abstract methods. This is about abstraction and where exactly we are going to use our abstract methods. Abstraction. So which will cover object-oriented concepts. These are very important object-oriented concepts. First thing is if you understand class and object, and then how to create an object, what are the different methods means what kind of methods, how to pass the parameters to the methods, and what is constructor, how to call a constructor. Whenever you are invoking the object itself, your constructor is called. So all these concepts are the basic required concepts to learn object oriented programming. And then you need to understand what is inheritance, polymorphism, abstraction, and so on. So these are the basic things which you need to know if you are working with object oriented programming. So basically, whenever you are working in any web application or any important application, the good practice is to develop the code in terms of classes and objects, which will be more secured instead of writing normal procedure-oriented functioning like C programming. So instead of declaring all the variables or functions without in the class, what it will happen is anyone can able to access my function or variables. If you declare within the class, until unless if I create an object, it is not possible to use those classes. So why we came for object-oriented programming is the main importance is this classes and objects. So since you are creating a class, until unless if you create an object, it is not possible to access that class methods and variables. But if you write a simple function like this, Anyone can able to access my function. Anyone can able to access my variables. So that's there is no security concept in without object oriented programming. So whatever the functions we have written without the classes, so where anyone can able to access my functions and variables. So starting whatever we discussed right before classes concept, I think it is there in another file. So like procedure oriented programming, C programming, if you declare the variables or classes without any means without any restriction of classes and objects, directly anyone can able to access my methods and variables. If you want security concept, then definitely need to wrap all the methods and functions within the class. Next concept is a database programming. So whenever if you wanted to work with machine learning applications, this classes and objects is optional. I mean, so most of the application just you are going to design your machine learning model, you are going to design predictions and so on. You are going to read some data sets and then you are going to perform your model predictions and so on. In that case, this object oriented programming is optional. If you wanted to go as a data scientist or AI engineer or machine learning engineer, this object oriented programming is optional. But what I'm telling is, even if you are implementing machine learning or AI or generative AI applications, if you implement class and object, that will be more secured when you compare with normal function oriented programming. So there will be different roles like ML engineer, data scientist, AI engineer, and so on, and web application developer. So if you wanted to go to web application developer, definitely need to learn Flask or Django or Fast API. Nowadays, Streamlit also they are using. These are web frameworks. Means if I wanted to develop some user interface to the user, I need to learn any of these frameworks. Not only in Python, if you see Java, .NET, definitely for each and every application, if you already know something Java, in addition to the Java, just Java is a language. In addition to Java, we need to learn like Hibernate, Springs, and lot of things you need to learn. Hibernates, Spring, a lot of things we need to learn. Those are the web frameworks like Java, .NET. If I wanted to develop some web application, then you need to use some web frameworks. But the advantage in Python is these are not the softwares, so just these are the packages. In Python, what is the advantage is even Flask, Django, everything is a package. So these are not separate frameworks. These are like inbuilt packages in Python. Inbuilt packages in Python. Just if I wanted to use a Flask, pip install Flask. If I wanted to use Django, pip install Django. Already predefined functionality is there. Just I need to import it, install it and import it. And you can check what is the corresponding function to implement those web applications. You can use these packages. And even if you wanted to develop some gaming application or some networking application, or if you wanted to develop some testing application, and so on. So for every application, just you need to search, you need to Google it, what is the related package, just search the related package, what are the functions in it, that package, and import that package, install that package, and you are ready to develop your corresponding application. So almost for every application, whatever you wanted to develop, either machine learning or data science or web application or testing application or networking application or payment application, for every application in Python, we are having some predefined packages. In addition to those predefined packages, if you feel those packages are not sufficient, you are able to make your own packages in Python. That facility Python will provide. If you wanted to develop your own packages, already we saw how to develop custom packages, right? You can develop your own custom packages if you feel any of those packages are not useful to implement your application. So that is about our object-oriented programming. And just I will discuss two databases, how you can store the data in database, SQLite and MySQL. So this SQLite is the default database which is provided by Python. SQLite is the default database. No need to install any specific software. If you install Python, along with Python, you are going to get SQLite. So just install Python in your system. Once if you install in Python system, along with Python, you are going to get this SQLite. So along with Python, if you install Python, you can get SQLite as a default with Python. But if I wanted to use MySQL or Oracle or any other database, then you need to install the corresponding package. Here also, I'm telling corresponding package. No need to do the required, means you are going to first you need to install the corresponding packages. First, we'll see SQLite. So if your requirement is very simple, means you are having some 100 records or 50 records or 1000 records, if your data is very less, or simple, very less, or if your application is very simple, then you can use SQLite. It is very lightweight database, SQLite. It is very lightweight database. What it will happen here is, actually first, you know, right, why database is required is if you wanted to maintain the details. So for example, if you are developing some student information project, let us take some simple example only. NIT Silchar, there will be 1000 students. Let us assume there will be some 1000 students. Each student having lot of details like name, age, gender, marks, location. Lot of details will be there, right? Where I need to store, I need to store in a database. Database is nothing but collection of related data in terms of tables. So in the database, how it will store is in terms of tables. Table is nothing but rows and columns, rows and columns. So if you think what is rows and columns means, columns are nothing but the headers like a name, age, gender, marks, location, and so on. For example, if you are storing student information, and rows are nothing but individual records. Name will be Jahangir and age is something 20, gender is male, marks is something 92, and so on. So each individual record will be called as a row. These are the records. So these are the records. And so these columns are nothing but, so where you are going to maintain rows and columns in a table in database. So whenever you are having the data, definitely for each and every application, at least once or many times you are going to interact with a database. So first we'll see very simple example how to create SQLite. What is the disadvantage here is if you have very complex data, lot of records in your data, this SQLite may not support. Definitely you need to use MySQL or Oracle or any other database or cloud databases or big databases you need to use to store the corresponding data. But if you are having just for practice purpose, you can use SQLite. And if you want to see MySQL also, I will show with an example how to store the data, retrieve the data. But for practice purpose, this SQLite is very simple. SQLite, what it will do means within your application, it will create a simple file. So it will not store in a separate database. No other software is required. Within your system only, it will create a file. It will create database file within your system. Means it will not use a separate software to store the data. Within in your system, it will create a simple database file. So for this, how to create it, I'm having some information, what are the functions it will support and how to create it. And SQLite, these are the different functions, how to create it. And I will show an example also how to execute this SQLite or SQL. So these are the different functions. So I will share all those functions and examples with you. Later you can execute. First, in order to connect it to the database, SQLite3.connect you need to use. This is the package. First, you need to install this package. But if you use MySQL or Oracle, what you need to do is you need to install the corresponding software for the databases also. If you use SQLite, just you need to install this package and internally it will store that database as a file in your system. I will show where it will store. And to connect to the database, we are having one function called as connect function, SQLite connect of database. What I'm telling here is database is nothing but a file here. Database is nothing but file here. If the file is there with that name, what it will do means it will open that database. If the file is not there, first time you are creating your database, then it will create that file in your system. So it will create that file in your system. Let us take simple code here. So let us take, this is the simple Python code how to create SQLite, how to connect it to SQLite. So in case if SQLite 3 is not installed in your system, then it will gives you error. First you need to install that SQLite. If it is there means directly you are able to create SQLite files in your system. So SQLite 3.connect of student DB. So what I am asking is connected to student DB. So first time what it will do means it will create student.db file in your system. It will create student.db file in your system. And if you wanted to save in the current location where you open this Jupyter notebook, no need to give the full path. If you wanted to save in any particular location, let us say I wanted to save it in D drive and some location if I wanted to save it, let us say D drive and it is Silchar. In this path I wanted to interested to save. So if I'm interested to save in that particular location, so then I need to give the full path. So at first time what it will do means if the file is not there means it will create the file. If the file is there means it will open that file. So what this SQLite3.connect will do means if the file is there means it will open that database file. If the file is not there means it will create that file at first time. If you see my folder, so there is no student.db. So if you see there is no student.db file here. So what I can do is if I execute this line, it has to create that file. So database created successfully. If I open my location and go and check again, you can see the file is created is student.db. If you wanted to see the properties, so it is a .db file, database file. So it is going to create database file. Means here you are not able to open that file, you are not going to able to see the contents. Internally it will create, tables and database, whatever required, it will store in directly as a file in your system. So here no need to require to install any SQL or Oracle or anything. In your system itself, it will create a file. So just it will create a database file. Once if you create your file, you are ready to create a database, you are ready to means you are ready to create a table, you are ready to insert the data. So let us see creating a table and inserting the data. So this is very simple example to create a table. If you have idea about database, that is fine. Otherwise, this is the syntax to create a table. So how to create a table? The syntax is create table, table name. Let us say I'm creating table name is student table. And inside that, whatever the parameters you wanted to create, like that is student ID, student name, student marks, student age, and so on. Whatever you wanted to create, you need to create those as a columns. So student ID, so that every student should have the ID, right? So I'm declaring it as a primary key. So primary key is nothing but which will uniquely identify your table. So student ID will be unique for every student, right? If I declare student name as a primary key, maybe multiple students have the same name. For example, Ishwar. Ishwar will be my name or your name or some other means multiple persons may have the same name. In that case, I cannot declare name as a primary key. So primary key means which is unique, which will uniquely identify your record. So I declare student ID into primary key, not null means this is a mandatory field where I need to give student ID as input and student name and student marks and so on. If you wanted to make it as a not null, you can make it as a not null. Means while inserting the data, it will not allow null values. It will expect student name, student marks, student ID, not null. So just create table, table name, and you need to mention the column names. And in order to execute this query, so this is the syntax to execute that query. So execute function, what it will do means it will execute this query and it will create a table. Where it will create that table means inside that file. Here SQLite, everything, whatever the operations you are going to create a table or inserting data into the table or updating the data into the table or retrieving the data from the table, everything will happen in that file only. So whatever there, whatever you are going to insert or retrieve or update, everything will happen within this file. So if I create this table, so it is created a table. Next, I wanted to insert the data or retrieve the data, inserting the records or retrieving the records. So let us say I will insert a single row. Either you can able to insert a single row or multiple rows. I will give an example. So here what I am doing is I am inserting one is Ishwar, means roll number is student ID is 1, name is Ishwar, and marks is 95. This is the syntax to insert the data into the table. Insert into table name. So this student is this table name. So whatever the table we have created, right? Here if you see second time I am calling this connect method, right? What it will do means in the first time this table, this database is not there, it will create the database. And second time, if you are invoking, it will directly connect to that database. It will directly connect to database. Nothing but that file. So here it will not create again that file. Already file is there. It will directly connect to that database. And so we saved in a different location. I don't think this is saved. So because if I don't give this location, what it will do means wherever the location which I opened this Jupyter notebook, it will consider that location. And here I am inserting one record. And this commit is nothing but whatever the changes, if I wanted to save within the database, this commit function, which is used to save the changes. Commit function which is used to save the changes in the database. So here I am inserting one record, and if I don't apply this commit function, it will not save the record into the table. So if I wanted to save the changes, then I need to execute commit, and close is nothing but here I am opening the connection, right? Connection to this database file. Whenever you are opening, at the end you have to close your connection. So this execute, it will execute this query, inserting that record, and then committing the changes to the file, and finally we are closing that database file. Here I'm inserting only one record. And if you wanted to insert multiple records also, you can able to insert. So this is the syntax to insert multiple records. So there is one function called as execute many. So let us say student number is 2 and Jahangir, and marks is something, and I will insert Mukesh, and marks is something 96, and so on. So how to insert multiple records is insert into table name values. Here I'm not going to give the value because I'm interested to insert multiple records. Just use question mark, question mark, question mark, and prepare list of values for each student. So this is second student, and this is third student, fourth student, and 10th student. Prepare all those as a list. And here there is one function called as execute many to execute many values at a time. So to execute or to insert multiple records into your database. And commit as usual, saving the changes, and close is to close that database. And now how to check whether these values are inserted or not. So this is my first record. This is my second record. This is third record, right? How to retrieve these records is there is one more function called as fetch all function. Fetch all function. So fetch all function, which will fetch all the records from the database, and each row contains one student details, and row of 0, that is column 1, row of 1, column 2, row of 2, column 3, and so on. You are able to print all those records. Here I need to use this location of that student DB file. So fetch all function. Here I didn't inserted because I didn't given the location, right. That is inserted in the Jupyter, where I open that Jupyter. Now if I execute it again, you can see Ishwar, Jahangir, and Mukesh. So here I am inserted 3 values, 3 records. I can able to see. So 3 records values, right? So for example, next by mistake I given Mukesh spelling mistake, right? How to correct it? So I don't know how I given means wrong value, but we can able to update the values. Means if you wanted to update the name, or if for example by mistake faculty entered 94, actual value is 97 for the marks. Then they can able to update, means whatever the database operations like insert, update, delete, all those operations you are able to perform on top of this database file. Here just it is a file. It is not a software. It will store everything in a file. So if I wanted to update something, so let us say I wanted to delete it, I can delete it. Or if I wanted to update something, so okay, spelling I have given wrong, right? I can update it. So for student ID equal to 2, for student ID equal to 2, by mistake I given the spelling as Mukesh, spelling wrong, right? I can update here. So I can update here. So this is update table name, set whatever the column you are thinking wrong value, and you need to use unique identifier which will identify that record. And then save the changes and then close the connection. And I wanted to see whether it is updated or not. Again, execute this and retrieve the records. And now you can see still it is not updated. Why? Here we didn't done. We have executed student ID equal to 2, SQLite 3. So I think again same thing. If you see here, I didn't mention the address, right? So because I'm specifically saving that file because it is created some other place, that's why. So if I see it again, you can see the Mukesh. Yeah. Again, third file it is updated. Something we did somewhere. We are inserting some wrong values. I think. Yeah, so here we are using third record as Mukesh. By mistake, I have updated student ID 2, right? It is updated student ID 2. Again, if I wanted to update student 3 as Jahangir, I can update it. Means we can do all those operations, updations, deletions, retrieval, everything you can do with this file. Just a minute, I will be back in a minute. So even if you wanted to delete any record, so that is also possible here. So deleting the record, you need to use delete statement. So the regarding this SQL syntaxes, just Google it, how to create, how to insert, how to retrieve. So same thing I'm applying through Python programming. So for example, I wanted to delete student ID equal to 3. So then you are able to delete that student ID equal to 3. So once if you delete, again if you wanted to check what are the records are there. So now it should delete the record, right? I have to see only 2 records. You can able to see only 2 records. Like this, you can able to delete, update, retrieve, insert all those operations through the database. Here the problem with SQLite is if the data is more or complex, then these are not suitable to apply in your web application or machine learning application. Even in machine learning or data science, if you have any data, if you wanted to retrieve the data, if it is very large, this SQLite file is not useful. If your data is very complex or more data is there, then in that case, these SQLite files are not suitable. Then in that case, just I will show one example, MySQL. MySQL. This is a SQL database. So what you need to do is here you need to install specific software. So for this MySQL, what I am using is Workbench. So before using this MySQL, you need to install the corresponding software. So MySQL. So I'm having once if you install Workbench, you can able to see something like this. MySQL Workbench. So you can able to see in the from the start button, MySQL Workbench. Here what you need to do is, so just Google it, you will get the required software for download and then you are able to install that required software. Just a minute. So while installing this, why means just Google it, you will get Workbench link to download it. Workbench MySQL. So you can see this. You can download the required software, download it, and while installing, just what you need to note down is your username and password. Your username and password. That is important whenever you are working in Python program. So your username and password is important. You need to note down those two details. And once if you install, you will get some interface like this, where you are able to execute the commands. Means directly I can able to create table, something I can create table name, student, and so on. So either one thing is you can use this database interface to execute your statements, or if you wanted to create these tables and if you wanted to insert it through the Python programming, because whenever user is accessing your web application and there will be interface where they can enter their details, then you have to accept the values through the interface, right? Then you need to write Python code to create all those things. Then here, in order to use MySQL and everything, not only MySQL or Oracle, so there you need to install the corresponding package. So in order to work with MySQL, you need to install this MySQL connector Python. So in order to work with MySQL, you need to install MySQL connector Python. So pip install MySQL connector Python. First step is you need to install the MySQL step 1. So step 1, install MySQL software. And second step is install this Python package. And while installing the software itself, very important thing is you need to note down username and password. Username and password. And step 2 is you need to install this MySQL connector Python. Once if you do these two steps, very simple, however, how we executed SQLite, right? In a similar fashion, we are able to execute, and I will show the table here after creating the table from Python code. So let us take some simple example. So here, for example, I wanted to create one database. Let us see. So this is creating a database. Creating a database. So in order to create a database, as I told, username is must and password is must. For my system, this is the username and password. Once if install your Workbench, you need to note down this username and password. So even if I share this notebook, what you need to give here is your username and password. So your username and password, not this username and password, your name and password from the Workbench. And so this host is local host. This is common. Local host is nothing but my laptop or my system, my laptop. So no need to change that local host. That is common for you or me or for other person who are using their own laptop. Local host we are going to give. Local host is nothing but my laptop I am using to create this database. And these are the two things you need to replace with your details. And then to create the database means I wanted to execute statement. First, you need to create the cursor object for your database. So whatever the connection details you are going to give, right? This is the package you need to import mysql.connector and mysql.connect. Here you need to mention your database details. And then you need to create a cursor object. And here I'm using my cursor.execute create database students. Instead of students, what I will do means, let us say NIT Silchar database. So just I'm mentioning create database NIT Silchar. And if there are no errors, if you are able to connect your database, then it will print database created successfully. Database created successfully. And you can get that database once. If I create NIT Silchar database, you are able to see your database and tables. I will tell you how to see those. First, I will create one table and insert some data. And creating a table. So I will create some table and insert data, and then I will show the output there. So see here. Now I wanted to use NIT Silchar database. This is the database which I have created, right? NIT Silchar database. By using this database, I'm interested to create student table. In this database, NIT Silchar is my database. Here, one extra parameter what I need to mention is which database you wanted to connect. So that is NIT Silchar database, and create table student. So same syntax how we did in SQLite also. But the difference here is we are storing in a separate software called as Workbench, SQL database called as Workbench. If you use Oracle or any big databases, you can use, means every database first just you install the corresponding connector, you are able to use any kind of database in Python. So what it will do means it will create the table in NIT Silchar. It will create the table created successfully. Let's wait. I will insert some records and then I will go to this UI and I will show that table here. And see, this is table creation and the table is exist. Inserting some record. Inserting some record. So here the database name is this. So let us say inserting some record with the one Ishwar and corresponding marks. This is one record inserted. If you wanted to insert multiple rows, you can insert multiple rows. So you can insert multiple rows, like execute many is the function to insert multiple rows. Records inserted successfully. Now here I will show what are the records inserted, as well as interface I will show what are the records inserted. So this is the query to see in the Python Jupyter notebook to see what are the records inserted. So NIT Silchar students, this is the database, right? So you can see there are three records inserted into this database. Now I will go to this interface Workbench. And so what a database I need to use is use NIT Silchar. NIT Silchar, my database name is NIT Silchar. So use NIT Silchar means whatever the database I have created, I'm asking to use that database. So use that database and then here. So select star from students. Select star from students. So select this and there will be one run button. So first select the statements which you wanted to execute and here execute all selection from students. NIT Silchar dot students doesn't exist, whether it is students or student. So that we need to see what is the table name we have created, just a student, right? So I have given students, that's why it is giving. There is no table exist. So there are 3 rows. You can see the records are inserted into this table. So either you can insert the records from here or you can insert the records from Python code. So I have done the my database operations from the Jupyter notebook. I'm using some Python statements and that records are stored into this database. But here, what is the problem here in SQLite is that is a simple Python file which will not support storing multiple lot of complex records. But if you use a separate software like this Workbench and so on, you are able to store complex data, whatever many number of records, whatever you want. That is the only difference you will get with this MySQL or Oracle and so on. For practice purpose, just if you wanted to use, you can use this SQLite. But in case if you need complex data, then you need to use this Workbench or any other software. So that's it for these sessions.